Yeah, we're live, man. We're on screen.
All right, I'll stop cursing
Yeah,
now.
stop cursing and everything else. All right, looks like we got. Hey, Jack's in there. Can you hear us all right, Jack? Just making sure he's in the chat. But yeah, we've got a couple of people watching. I'm sure a few more will drop in, and we are going to discuss chapter approved 2022. Mostly focused on the points changes for Chaos Marines because that's why we're here.
So
And,
good,
yeah,
so good.
yeah, he can hear us good. So let me just say, Dara, I'm going to let you have your stage. Don't worry, you're going to get time. I just want to say, when I got home from work last night, it was 2:30 in the morning, over here in the States, and I was like, I could stay up all night just to see when the first video drops and watch it. And I was going to put a post up either on Instagram or something. It's like, the night before chapter approved is kind of like Christmas Eve when you're a kid. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm so excited. What new presents am I going to get tomorrow? I'd kind of heard some rumblings and rumours that, we were going to get some pretty tasty points drops. I'd heard warp talons mentioned a couple times and things like that. But you never know until you see it. So I was quietly expectant. I was quietly confident we was going to have a nice day today. A nice Saturday where we could all be chaos friends and really enjoy ourselves. Even living with one wound, I thought maybe we're going to get pointed in such a way where we're closer to, we're somewhere halfway between tactical Marines and Sisters of Battle, Battle Sisters, which I honestly I don't know where we sit at the moment because I just haven't had time to look. But from everything I'm seeing and reading and hearing in the last hour since I've been awake, basically hour and a half, you know what, Dara? Why don't you just take over for a minute?
Okay, I'm gonna try and be as polite and not angry as possible. And I think you're right in a lot of ways, Jamie. I think the night before chapter approved is like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But it's subtly different in the way that you might wake up for some insane presents the next morning. Maybe some presents you weren't even expecting that are just so good that you can't believe them. But you also might wake up and it's not just a lump of coal in your stocking. It's like Santa hasn't left and he's using that lump of coal in the stocking as a weapon. And he might beat you to death.
It's the Krampus, right?
So it's like a coin toss. You're like, I'm excited for the potential of Christmas Eve, but I also might die tomorrow. And that's basically what chapter approved is. And unfortunately, in this case, Santa has beat me to death with a sock and then gotten his reindeer to trample all over my dead corpse.
Oh my god.
It's like, okay, so I would say, for the most part, the Red Path as an organization, as a channel or whatever, is predominantly very positive towards GW,
sure,
towards the state of the game, towards like everything in general.
Towards
our
a shit
idea
tier faction, and we're still having fun, right?
Our mentality has been like push through, do the best you can, have fun along the way. And I totally vibe with that. I am like, that's like such a good mentality to have, like finding enjoyment in the game, finding the positives in everything you can. It's like what you should do. But I can barely find any positives with this. And to be totally brutally honest, I'm not interested in competitive play right now. I'm just like totally uninterested in it until we get like meaningful updates that actually do something for us as a faction. I think the game state as a wider thing is not in a bad place.
Right.
I think if you look at the meta, it's actually quite interesting. There's a lot of variability in the meta.
Yeah.
There's a lot of armies that can win. I saw someone saying that it's actually a really interesting LVO we have ahead of us where
it's incredible. It really is.
Like there is no clear favorite, I would say it's very hard to guess who's going to win the LVO, and that's awesome. Like the fact that Tyranids can even be in the running for the LVO is awesome. Like that's really cool. It's really, really good. So as a whole, the game state is really in an interesting place where it's almost like that golden era of summer 8th edition where there was that time where anyone could win. I would say we're almost there, and that's fantastic to see.
Everyone else is almost there, or everyone else is there. There's us, Astra Militarum,
and Knights.
And Knights, yeah.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, realistically, I mean, there's a few others who don't have a codex. Obviously, Tyranids don't have a codex, but they've got supplementary rules which have made them at least have a competitive build and competitive options. And Knights, they've got a few little tricks. I mean, they're not storming anything, but I don't know if it was our channel or another Discord I'm in was talking about like the 14 War Dog list or whatever the Imperial mini Knights. You just spam those. They've got some things. Obviously, the Moraxes are good. The Megara is still good. At least I assume so. I haven't checked it yet.
Well, both of those got points increases, so...
Okay. Demons
yeah.
Are similar to us. I think they're kind of like their monster, like the triple Keeper of Secrets or whatever the heck it was. Hasn't been as popular, but they've still got some things they can pull off with Be'lakor and some allies and stuff. But I think they're in a similar position to us in that there's maybe one or two lists which are okay in the meta, but they're not like the Crusher Stampede, which is very strong against 70-80% of lists and is kind of even against a couple. We don't have that. There isn't a Chaos Space Marine list that does that. There's some good Chaos Space Marine lists run by good Chaos Space Marine players, but that it takes everything coming together. I can't go to a GT and expect 4-1 or 4-2 because I'm not that level of player. Whereas if and I'm not trying to trample on other codexes, but if I was running AdMech in the time of AdMech obsceneness, or had been running Drakari for 6 to 12 months, I think I'm good enough that I could be going 4-2 at GTs because I understand the game enough and how to beat my opponent and play the mission enough. We don't have those tools. I'm no way top tier, but I'm competent, and it takes those top tier players to take our pile of shit tools and do something good with them, quite frankly. And that's the problem. And this isn't giving us much. I mean,
I think it's even more of a problem where I was actually talking about this with my friends during the week, and we were saying that even if you do innovate with Chaos Space Marines, even if you do come up with something new and something interesting, it doesn't really matter how effective it is because it's only going to be effective once.
Yeah.
Because the nature of our book is that even if you do discover something, it can be countered so easily because at the end of the day, the chassis that it's built on, the rule set surrounding it is probably going to be very counterable.
Yeah. It is.
It's like the first time you play someone when you're World Eaters. Probably give them a heart attack when you do all your double activations and X, Y, and Z. But they'll never make that mistake again.
No, they won't.
And you can apply that to CSM as a whole. And this book basically just doesn't change anything. And
hold
it sucks.
On, let's because we've got a few people in now. I'm going to go over the CSM changes because there's not many of them. Just so in case anyone is watching this back or isn't familiar. So, obviously, almost every faction got some kind of points adjustment. Most of them, from what I can see, got a few going up and a few going down, so it probably balances out some lists. Some people might, be dropping a particular unit in their comp list, whatever. For World Eaters and for Chaos Space Marines, the basic Chaos Space Marine, the squad of troops, was 14 points a model, is now 12 points a model, so you're saving 2 points a model, or on a 5-man squad, you're saving 10 points. So down to 60. Down to 60 for 5 Marines. Okay, fine. Warp Talons were 23, are now 20, so they've dropped 3. This is actually it's a very good change in a vacuum. On paper, it's amazing because pretty much every World Eaters player, including both of ourselves, has been running some kind of Warp Talon blob. Whether it's an 8-man, a 10-man, a couple of 5-mans, whatever. So we are, I think, saving, 30 odd points there, maybe more. Like my current list, I'm saving 45 points. Obliterators have dropped 10 points a model. Obliterators, every now and again, they crop up in a CSM list that does well. I just don't think they are generally, even for Iron Warriors who can kind of layer some buffs on there, I don't think they're an auto take. Even maybe at 95, the only play I've ever had for them is bringing a single one for a rod. And now that's not going to be a thing anyway. So, not for me anyway. And the Lord of Skulls is another significant, but it's not a game changer. It's gone up 15 points base to 450. So you still depending on your weapon loadout. So you can kind of even out if you was running the 15-point flamer on it. You could just drop down to the Ica cannon, I think it's called, which isn't terrible because it's D6 shots. It's not a flamer profile, but it's -4, strength 7 consistently, and D3 damage. So it's not a bad gun. It's just not as good as the 3 damage flamer. So if you are committed to your Lord of Skulls, I don't think you're losing out necessarily. You may just have to make a minor adjustment somewhere. Those of us who are running Warp Talons will see, maybe we can squeeze in some upgrades. If you're running Marine squads, you've basically got a free Melter or a Power Fist on the champion, or points elsewhere. I don't know. All right. So let's start with the Chaos Space Marine unit itself. I've been running cultists almost exclusively alongside my berserkers. Berserkers have a role. Cultists are my point scorers, right? I know you've had a couple of squads of cultists generally in your list for a while, right? And I think many of us do. Now, obviously, there are players that use the Marines, and there was a good argument, and there is a good argument for running them. They've got power armor. They can get 2-up save and cover. They've got bolt guns. They hit a bit harder, but they are 5 wounds less. Do you think we start looking at taking Marines instead of cultists for the same job? Because they're only 10 points more now.
No, definitely not.
I don't think so. I was thinking about earlier, and I don't think so. But give us your reason, and then I'll give you mine.
I mean, cultists are still cheaper to do the same job.
Yeah.
They overall have more wounds. Yeah, sure, whatever else. Like 5 Chaos Space Marines were never doing damage. Neither are 10 cultists. Yeah. So non-change there. Like, yeah, sure, 60 points for 5 Chaos Marines is like... I was thinking about this earlier. If they were 10 points model, if they were 50 points for a squad of 5, I would still probably take the cultists. That's like how much I'm like, oh, whatever. It's just like, it just shows how poor the base Chaos Space Marine is. That like, you can make him 12 points, which is cheap. As like a Marine goes, that is cheap. Yeah. And I still won't even consider taking him. It's not even a consideration. It's just a joke, It's like, so okay, this was my analogy that I said to you before we went live. This is what I think happened with the points. So I think the rules team were having their big meeting, They were like, okay, we're gonna start doing the points for Chaos Space Marines. And their manager comes over to our boy, and he's like, all right, man, you're gonna have to drop Chaos Space Marines by 2 points, meaning the faction needs to drop by 2 points across the board.
Everything in the faction.
And the guy here is like, yeah, easy job, thinking in his head, this is going to be so fine. So he goes to the, his PDF editor, because that's probably what they use.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, Chaos Space Marines unit, -2 points. He's like, my work here is done. And that was it. That was,
time
like, it's...
I'm not going to lie. If that was me,
I'm in so much pain.
At GW, that's exactly what I would do, because that's just how I am.
Yeah. It's just like it's like why? Like, why would you drop them by 2 points? It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. When you look at it, I think this does have... I think this is a good change. If you're like running Red Corsairs, I think this is superb. The Marine change, right? Because that does... Because you're probably running 3 squads of Marines, right? And you've suddenly gained a significant amount of points. Maybe you can buff one of them up for their Marine Tide of Traitors or something. It's not making them competitive, but it's a feel-good, right? Because it's a unit you're using because it's integral to your strategy oftentimes. So, okay, that's a good one. There might be a couple others. I can't remember. Someone made a comment about Emperor's Children, which I still don't see it. Like, I don't know why you're bringing... Because they can take the Archon of Excess and that. I still don't think
it's the same as World Eaters. Like, why would you ever take Chaos Marines when you could just take Berserkers or Noise Marines as your troop choice? Like, there's no good reason to bring Chaos Marines because in a cult legion, like Emperor's Children or World Eaters, your cult troop is better, and then if you want to do the mission stuff, the cultist is better.
Yeah.
It's just like it just to me doesn't make any sense. Like why they like so obviously someone in GW looked at the chaos points and was like, we need to drop Chaos Space Marines by 2 points. And like that was like pretty much all they thought of. And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, why do you think that people are going to bring 12-point Chaos Marines when they are still garbage?
Yeah.
And then why do you think that it was okay to just drop them, Warp Talons and Obliterators and nothing else? Like, fair enough. Yeah. Warp Talons, since the start of 9th edition, have been an anomaly at 23 points a model. Yeah. Now they're 20. That's still really expensive for what they do. And sure, like, I saved 30 points in my list. Great, I have 30 points, which I'm like, I don't know.
I've been thinking.
It's not even 2 Berserkers. Like, it's like, okay, I've got nothing to do with these, but I can put, like, Meltas on something.
I was hoping that we would save, like, 100 to 150 points on our list, right? On just every Chaos Space Marine player, the changes were so sweeping and significant, with everything dropping down, that 100 points would be made available, right? Because if Warp Talons came down to the 20, which I think is fine, and I think it's fair for them, in my opinion. I don't think Raptors needed to come down, but I think Hellbrutes could have done with coming down. Until we get the new rules, Hellbrutes could have come down 10 points a model easily. The characters should have been coming down, quite frankly. Even with the reroll rules being better than their counterparts, they're just not as good as their counterparts because you can't put 17 buffs on them and make them invincible and only take 1 damage every 3 games and stuff like that, right? So I think characters should have been coming down 10 to 15 points a model and stuff like that. There's a lot of opportunities they've missed, and I was hoping for more, and yes, we didn't get it. I do agree about the Marines, the unit, the Chaos Space Marines, because it doesn't take much more to kill Chaos Space Marines than it does cultists. Now, admittedly, if you are facing like an Astra Militarum with lots of guardsmen, like very few tanks, or you're facing Tyranids with like a Gaunt's carpet or something like that, they're not going to have a whole bunch of AP, so sure, you may absorb a few more shots. But in general, the kind of lists I've been facing recently, whether it's Custodies or the Crusher Stampede, or even other, like Emperor's Children or something, everyone has a way to remove either 10 cultists or 5 marines in one unit's activation. If they want to, if they need to. If it's going to swing an objective, that unit is gone. Like, there isn't a significant enough difference in competitive games that it matters. Everyone can remove 5 power armored 1 wound models with a thought. So yeah, I do agree. The only thing I would consider is, like for someone like me who is running cultists and rhinos, if I had the points, I could get 2 squads of marines in 1 rhino and drop a rhino and save points kind of indirectly, but it's not, I want to have the rhino anyway, so it's not great for me. I'm trying to find something good here, man. I'm trying to find a positive spin. And
I admire it.
All right, so yeah, the Marine change was trash, and you're probably right with someone got told to drop the points, and they just did it for the unit instead of the faction. And
honestly, with how incompetent GW can be sometimes, I would really, if that is honestly what happens, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I'd just be like, yeah, par for the course. Yeah,
Yeah, we've seen it before. We kind of touched on Warp Talons dropping 3 points. I do think this one is significant, less so for the points that are freed up, and more so for the fact that, I'm sure you've had it happen, I'm sure we've all had it happen, you frenzy you spend your CP on your frenzy, and then you don't go first, and there's not a good position to move forwards to just because of the terrain to wait for that kind of second turn counter strike, so you have to pull back, or you have to, okay, I've blown a CP now, it is what it is. But then your opponent, they're Tyranids, they've got Hive Guard, and there's no way, because of the mission, that you can get out of range of them. You're going to lose, that squad most likely, because they know that's an alpha threat, and if it makes it into any one of their monsters with initiative, it's probably going to kill it. So they want to get rid of it because then they can play around your shooting and stuff. Now you're only losing, depending on how you're running them, you're losing 200 points instead of 230 points. And that doesn't, for some reason, it's maybe a psychological thing, that doesn't feel as bad for me. And it does mean I can kind of go from a 10 and a 5 to 2 8s or something like that with the points saved. I don't know. I think it's the best change we got, for sure. Certainly as World Eaters. It is.
I was just like, it's like so few changes to pick from that. Yeah,
I know.
Like,
Well, it's three.
I think you're right
positives.
though. I think like it's in terms of their what is important is like their ability to trade up in the Alpha
Yeah.
Strike. It is obviously now easier because their overall points is less.
Yeah.
So it's easier for them to trade into a unit of higher value or equal value. So
Yeah.
that is quite good. And like the fact that you will probably lose that unit fast is better now because like there are less points that you're losing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it is really good. And like the way I'm using my Warp Talons these days, it makes them even better where it's like they're not really in alpha, they're like small MSUs going around that like are basically there to flip objectives. So they play
Yeah.
that role better because their value is just
Yeah.
better. So like yeah, like the Warp Talon change is definitely good. There's no doubt about
Yeah.
it. My problem is that like it should be one amongst many and not
Yes.
one alone.
Yeah.
Like if it was like the Warp Talent change along with like Berserkers and like other stuff like HQs, I'd be like, this is fire. Like I'm gonna play competitive World Leaders until
How hard would it have been on the top of that point page? Asterisks, units pointed below with an asterisk, change the wounds value from 1 to 2.
Well, I know you probably haven't seen the tabletop tactics video, but that
No,
was
I
literally the joke in the video. It's
Oh,
like
re-
Chef
oh.
was like, yeah, if you look at the asterisks next to all these guys, they get 2 wounds, except no one has an asterisk, and it's a sticky note I put in the book by myself, and I'm like, the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
So, alright, there's a comment in the chat from Justin. We got nothing because we're getting a codex soon. Why would anyone expect any changes to Chaos? I mean, that's a fair point, but we don't know when we're getting a codex. We've got...
I mean, it's not that soon.
No.
That's my point. It's like, it's at least...
maybe 2 months, if we're lucky.
Yeah,
I
at the
think.
earliest, because like we
Yeah.
have Tau,
Yeah.
and we have Eldar, and
Yep.
we have like... Rumor is Chaos Knights are coming out before
Yeah.
us. So like,
That's
there's probably 3 books,
before
you know?
us, yeah.
which is
So
like,
we-
that's not soon
No.
to me.
If we had a date or a month, or if it was confirmed it was Q1, right? Between 1st of January and 1st of March, or the 1st of April, sorry. I would be okay, I can hold over, but because we still don't know, we still have no confirmation, like, you know, it's just getting frustrating. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Dara, we've tried to be, or we've always been very positive on our outlook about things. And the whole, you know, 4.5-year-old codex, one wound Marines, is a meme, right? We still keep trying to play games. But at this point, so many missed opportunities to just tell us something. Just give us a hint. Just give us, you know, just a promise of redemption. And it is frustrating. But I do agree that we are getting a change soon, but soon is so ambiguous. We have been we're over 2 years into this edition, like, and we're still impotent as a faction. Quite frankly, it's just depressing because we are the big bad guys. We are the terror of the galaxy. We should be something that everyone fears. I don't want to be broken. I don't want to be overpowered. I just want to be able to rock up to a table and they're like, oh shit, you're running World Eaters. Okay, I know what you boys can do. Okay, so that's what I want. I want to fight on equal ground. But that's it. Let me have a quick look at the other comments here. How did Dark Eldar escape without nerfs? Have you talked to your housemate about the Dark Eldar yet?
So here's the thing with the Dark Eldar. They got their points update in the balanced data slate in November or December, whenever
Yeah,
it was.
a couple months
So
ago.
like that's kind of fine. Like
Yeah.
I really don't think, apart from like Thick City, Talos spam, which needs a points change,
Well, the
obviously.
Thick City's
But
basically gone anyway, kind of.
yeah, like it's like I don't know. Obviously, like Dark Eldar were quite oppressive. Dark Eldar are really not that bad now, to be honest. Apart from like Talos spam, which is annoying to play against. But like people kind of need to get off the Dark Elder hate train a little bit. They're really, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
After the data slate balance, they're okay. They're not winning everything. Neither are AdMech. So like, let's get off that hate train and just like kind of move past that because like it's okay.
I'm on the Custody's hate train.
Yeah, I'm not.
I know
I
no
don't
one
think they're
else
too
is.
bad, but
I know no one else is, but you will
Yeah.
be. I'm pretty sure you will be at some point.
I think they're easier to beat than they used to be, which is a relief because I found them quite challenging but beatable before. But anyway,
Okay.
my point even is that like despite the Thick City Talos builds, even though that is like a known thing in the world, it's pretty goddamn likely that this chapter proved was written in like summer.
Yeah.
When Thick City didn't exist,
Yeah.
which is like something I'm going to talk about later as we stream, but like that's probably why that wasn't touched. That's obviously a really bad thing for its own reason.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that for sure, because that's what my biggest gripe about this is. It's not even the points change for Chaos, which is really bad. That is not the biggest problem for me. But yeah, so like Dark Elder obviously, and like overall, I don't know a heap about other factions and stuff, but like everyone is kind of like, what is this points change? Like
Yeah.
Deckard got shafted for kind of no reason. And like a couple of other factions are just like, why are we not seeing reductions? And like,
Yeah.
it's like very much the same as Chaos. Obviously not to the same extent because there's very, very few armies in the game. I would say apart from Imperial Guard, it's just us and them that are just like at this point where it's like, hey, does anyone care about us? And it's like,
Yeah.
no one cares about you. It's like,
Pretty much.
okay. Yeah, it's just like it's really tough to be like interested in comp play when you're a Chaos player right now because like there's not really a good way to play your army competitively, and they are not making it easier. And then there's all these other armies coming out with their codexes that are really scary. So it's like with every codex that comes out, it gets harder to play the game with no sign of our codex in the future apart from loose rumors.
Yeah.
And even then,
We
it's
may
like,
not even
what am
be
I?
in the codex. If those loose rumors are
like-
true, we may not be even in the codex.
That's the thing, right? It's like,
And
okay, cool.
what
So like,
we
yeah, the
gonna-
Chaos Marine Codex might be here in March,
Yeah.
and World Leaders might be 6 months later.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. We really are the whipping boys of
It
Night.
does feel
Like,
like it.
it's
look,
like
so
even if it comes out, right? Even if it comes out this year, we've got like what, like a year left in the edition before they're like, oh, 10th edition time,
yeah.
and then it's like, okay,
Space Marines 3.0.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's getting a little bit tiresome, and I think, okay, so we might as well talk about before we dive into the good side of this book, because I think there is a good side of chapter
Yeah.
approved. I think the biggest problem with this book is the fact that it's a book, and it's just. Okay,
Hold
I'm
that
trying.
thought.
I am trying so hard
Hold
not
the
to
thought,
swear.
hold the thought.
I-
I'm gonna because I know where you're going. So I'm gonna run through some of the most significant point changes from all the factions. We're not going to dwell on them. I just want to
Yep.
highlight some of the units that have been seeing meta play. Right. So
Yep.
starting with the Marines, the Redemptor's gone up 10 points. Fair, but
Fair, yeah, fair enough.
I don't think it nerfs them because they were so good anyway. They would probably they're only 185 now, so we send our 10 warp talons into them, which is a very good trade tactically. We're still trading down points wise, so they would, like, if you're sending 10 of them, that would have needed to gone to 200. I'm not sure what the, because I know they normally stick the plasma on there and the additional Gatling cannon and stuff, so maybe it is actually now over 200 with weapons. I don't know, but it's just a balance trade. They did have a lot of things go down in points, but nothing here really seems to me like it's going to shake anything up.
No, I think
couple of the
Marines are still in a
planes
fairly
went down.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit tough for Marines, but I see Marine players complaining, and I'm like, shut up.
Yes,
Just shut up.
No sympathy.
Like I'm sorry. Like I don't care how bad you think your book is. You
Yeah.
are not playing Chaos. Like I would. I would kill you, Jamie, if it meant that I could get the Marines rules. I would end you.
I no, that's fair. I mean, we're world
It's just like I see people complaining about those things, and I'm like, I know you're not as good as the Tau or like the AdMech, but shut up.
Yeah.
You're nowhere near as
You've
bad as we are.
Almost 4 years of the last 2 editions of being in the middle to the top. So yeah. Alright, Grey Knights. Nemesis, the Dread Knight, Grandmaster, and the Dread Knight both went up 10, but more importantly, the change to not being able to
sub-faction
soup.
souping, yeah.
So
solid.
That list will change, and the Interceptors finally went up to they went up 2 points, so they're 26 now. 6 points more a model than a Warp Talon, starting to get where they should be because they're very similar in their ability to move around. Be very good. In the Sisters, Morvenval went up 15. Sacrosancts went up 2, which I think is good.
Yeah, that's going to hurt a lot of Sisters.
Came down 30. Paragons.
It still doesn't make them good.
No, but
they're still so bad.
Yeah, but that's a big points drop. And some people do run them, and I'm sure someone will find a role for them.
And I think at least one person in the world thinks they look good. But that's probably it.
Dominions went up 2 points as well, and we'll leave that there. So
kind of a weird one. I didn't really think Dominions like merited a points increase. I saw it and I was like, I don't really get it, but okay. But fair enough anyway.
Yeah. For the Astra Militarum, Lehman Rosses went down 10. Death Strikes down 30, which fine. Manticores went up 10. But the Lehman Ross, because that just got a 2-up save as well in the balance. So again, Astra Militarum, that's like their equivalent of the Warp Talon change. It's good, but it's nowhere near enough, right? It's,
they're down in the dregs with us. It's like, we're just hanging out in opposite trenches, but at this point we're just like, hey.
Well, it's like the Christmas truce. We may as well just have friendly games with each other instead of killing each other, Death Guard, everyone's kind of known about for a while. Blight Lords went up 2, Death Shroud up 5, FBS up 15. Blight Haulers down 10 and the PBC down 15.
That's really rough.
It balances out, but I think
I just think it's really
changes. And
I think
go ahead, man.
Sorry, go. I just think Deckard got hit unnecessarily hard there. It's like they were like basing those points changes off a meta that existed in the early half of last year when Deckard were one of the only books out, and I'm like, this is such a dated points change that it's not relevant. And like, I don't know, like, again, this is why these things shouldn't be a book, but we'll just get through the rest of the points before I explode.
Demons, Insensate Rage, Bloodthirster down 10, whoop-de-doo, Lord of Change up 10, no big change there. Nurglings up 3, seen a bit of play, and whatever, they still do the job you want them to do. Flamers down 3, Fleshhounds down 2, Seekers down 2, Soulgrounder down 15. You hear talk about a lot of those units here and there, but none of them are, breaking anything. Soul Grinder.
It's almost 15. Like there's like a couple of demon players like Mike who are like, I finally made something work, and then GW were like, no. I was like, okay, you should not have like upped a single unit in the demon codex for points, because that's just really stupid.
Necrons.
I think Bellicor went up 20 as well, which is like, okay, I guess.
Necrons, I'll just run through the biggest changes because they got the kind of points reduction that we should have got, right? But because we haven't seen their impact on the meta yet since the balanced data sheet, really, I mean they're obviously better. Hopefully this makes them like significantly top middle tier. I hope for them. I'm
going to say it that I think a lot of Necron players, especially ones that you see like commenting and stuff, are always like, this change isn't enough. And I'm like, it's kind of similar to when Space Marines are like, oh, we're in such a tough spot. I'm like, you probably haven't tried. Like, you probably haven't really, because like, I'm looking at all the changes that they got in the balance status slate combined with these points drops. And I'm like, if I was a Necron player, I would be like, time to sweat it out.
Well,
and like,
I mean, we've got a couple
because there's so much options.
We've got a few Necron players, and they've been generally like quite excited about it. Like,
I think they're like a really interesting army, and like there's definitely the fact is there's so many changes that have been implemented to Necrons across the last 2 balance tweaks or whatever, that like I think there's a lot of options there, but it's probably very difficult to formulate a really competitive thing simply for the volume of change that happened to them. That it's like, okay, what works best here? It's almost like you're getting like basically like a kind of almost new rule set, and it's like that's a pretty steep learning curve.
They need a red path type community where everyone's trying something and then they slowly coalesce. But the big changes, Tesseract Vault came down 50, don't know how good that is. Silent King deck came down 30, which I'm assuming that's pretty good. Obelisk down 40, Monolith came down 30. Then looks like 5s and 10s for like their destroyers, Doomstalker. Like just generally, you're squeezing an extra unit or 2 in there, I think, in your typical list. Orcs seem to have had more of a balanced one, but some kill rigs going up 20. Beast Boss on Squigosaur up 30. Rucker Truck Squig Buggies up 20. Scrapjet up 10, which, okay, I mean... Yeah,
but again, I'm like seeing people complain about these, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but like the Rocket Truck Squig Buggy should never have been the cost that it is without all the nerfs, even to its like thing. I remember I was talking to Mark one day. I don't know, we were just like chatting shit or whatever, and he was like, "Have you actually like looked at like just the data sheet for the Rocket Truck Squig Buggy for the points you get?" And I was like, "You know what? I actually haven't." And I looked at it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? Like, it's like, how is this so cheap?" So I'm like, it going up in points is so fine. I don't care. The kill rig going up in points is so fair as well. It was like 180 points for this giant thing. And the boss on Squigosaur guy was so cheap. He was almost the same points as Khorne for such a better data sheet. So I'm like, I don't care. Like, you guys still have plenty to play with. You're good.
They can deal with it. Finally, Tyranids. Hive Guard going up 5 points a model, I think, is fair. Because again, they got access to the shoot twice and stuff, and that just it squeezes out maybe a unit of Tyranid warriors in the Crusher Stampede list or something. Okay.
So it doesn't. That's the thing. The Hive Guard increase is actually such a like null change, because like basically most Tyranid players were taking a Lictor before to do Rod. Now they are dropping the Lictor because he can't do Rod anymore, and the Lictor himself costs more than the increase across the Hive Guard squad. So there is literally no change to their lists, basically. They're fine. Yeah, they should have gone up by 10 points in my opinion, but whatever. It's not the worst transgression there. It's fine.
And the Dimacaron went up 25 points, which that's fine.
Yeah, like fair. Good. That guy is pretty scary. Yeah.
And then the rest, Tyrannofex, Exocrine, and Haruspex all went down, but yeah. Okay, so that's the points. Let me just check the chat here.
Oh, don't forget the massive changes to Forge Worlds, which was the Contemptor, and that was it.
Oh, okay. So what happened there? Did the Contemptor base go up, or was it
the Volkite went up 10 per gun? So like, I think it was 10 anyway. Yeah, it was, because it was 5 and now they're 15. But that was it.
Yeah, Las Cannon, which is what I was hoping to move to anyway if I keep the Contemptor. Now that the Contemptor chassis hasn't gone up, I'll probably just switch to Las Cannon. Or maybe just throw a fist on, have one Volkite and a fist, and then 2 Las Cannons on another. Or,
it's just so outrageously lazy to me that they were like, oh, what do people take from Forge World? It's like they search, like, what is the #1 trending unit in Forge World? They're like, oh, Volkite.
Did they specifically... Because Volkite is so weird in Imperial Armor, because there's like 4 versions of it, even though the 2 are called the same thing, like the Contemptor version and the Achilles version are called the same thing. And then the drills and the Leviathans are called the same thing, but they have different stat lines.
So as far as I know, it's just the one in the Contemptor's data sheet.
Land Raider Achilles matter then? No.
Hell yeah, brother.
Okay.
And then like the Magara and the War Dog Moirax went up.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, okay, but I'm like, there's so much more that needs to be like tweaked in Forge World. Like there just is, and I'm like, why aren't you? Oh my god, I'm so angry.
Okay. Jack mentions he's going to try and drop out the Raptors from his list to get Talons, which I can see that. I could, thinking about it, because you just mentioned Rod, I could see like 2 squads of 6 and a big squad, or a big squad and a squad of 6 or something, or just 2 squads of 8. I don't think it's terrible with Warp Talons, especially if you can run 2 or 3. I don't know. Right, we'll worry about that.
Yeah, part of me is like, yeah, maybe there's like tweaks you can do and stuff, but the majority of me knows it's just me desperately trying to make something out of nothing.
trying to find gold out of the
Yeah,
pile of shit.
I'm like, okay, maybe if we saved enough points to add like 200 points to our list, then I'm
Yeah,
like, we might stand a fighting chance into some of the new stuff. Like, I would, if we saved 200 points, I would have been like, yeah, I can give it a shot. I probably won't do very well, but I can give it a shot. Yeah, but like saving 30 points, I'm like, you might as well just not do anything.
Yeah,
like that's such a null change that it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay, so give us your salt then.
Okay, so overall, that's like a really lazy effort on points for like pretty much every faction. Like it's like whoever dropped the points or whoever was in charge of it just did not really care. And like it's dated already because of printing and books or whatever. And that's really my main problem with this is the fact that this is still a purchasable book. Like, so first of all, massive waste of like paper. It just doesn't need to be printed, and like we should all be trying to save paper and like be more sustainable anyway. So that in itself is kind of dumb. Second of all, because it's printed, it means that like this went to print like 6 to 8 months ago or whatever, when things were relevant then, like Death Guard, and are no longer relevant now, like the Death Guard. And then things like Tick City aren't being touched because that didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing. That in itself is like super frustrating.
Yeah.
The fact that the book is dated tilts me. The fact that I have to pay for this book tilts me to another level.
Yeah.
And the fact that the book in Ireland at least is €32 for this and a mission pack is infuriating. It is outrageous that it is so much money. Yeah.
So that's $36 for American.
Yeah.
What? All right, carry on. I'm just going to look and see how much it is to pre-order.
So like, if this book was €10, I would not buy it. If this book was €5, I might buy it. If this book was free, I might pick it up when I was passing. But like, there is just no reason to be charging us money for this. Like, it is fundamentally wrong. Yeah. I was saying this earlier. Imagine if you bought a computer game and you're playing it, and you know there's probably a couple of little things wrong with it or whatever. And the devs are like, we need to do a balance fix. We need to tweak some guns. We need to change up some of the way the system goes. And you're like, oh, sick, you know. And you go to your computer or your Xbox or whatever, not PlayStation because PlayStation sucks.
Shut up.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to load up my game. And they're like, the game needs an update. It's going to be a balance fix. We're going to tweak these things. And you're like, okay, cool. And they're like, if you want the update, it's going to be €30. And I'd be like,
like
no.
EA bought Games Workshop, basically.
Yeah, I'd be like, no, fuck that. I'm not paying for that. Like, I have bought this game. I should not have to pay for the rules. The fact that, like, they're like, we gave you rules. We charged you for them the first time. Yeah. If you want us to fix those rules, we're going to charge you almost as much as you paid for them the first. I am like, what the hell? Like, it's just, oh my God. And the thing is, the bloody update that you're paying for is already dated and already needs to be changed. Yeah. And it's like, what is going on? So, okay, I need to try and compose my thoughts a little bit here. But like, that's just so fundamentally flawed to me that they're charging for this system and they're charging so much for it. And I hope everyone who is watching this does not buy this book. I will not be buying this book. And if a tournament is like, we need you to have that book, I will be like, why? Like, I know what the missions are. It's okay. It's probably in the rules pack. I know what my points are. Like, the core rules of the game aren't even in this book, and they have been in all the other ones. That is so stupid because, like, I don't care what anyone says. That was really useful in the other mission packs because I referenced them a lot. Mm-hmm. And like the fact that the custodes points changes. So okay, the fact that there was custodes points changes is really bad. Yeah. There's a lot about this. Actually, let me just focus on this for a minute, okay? So
go ahead.
So the custodes point changes were a free PDF on Warcom on like Friday or something, which is like, okay, cool, fair enough. The people just bought their codex. They should not have to pay more for points changes. They should not have to pay for points changes anyway. Full stop. They should not. Regardless of that, in the Warcom article, they were like, oh yeah, we thought the custodes codex was going to come out way before this, but now that they're so close together, we'll give it to you for free. And I'm like, so you were planning on publishing the Custodes Codex and then publishing the points change after them. So you had them both at the same time without any testing or any field reporting, and you were just going to try and sell it to them again? I'm like, that's fucked. That's really, really messed up.
It's sleazy as all hell.
That's
There's a
bad.
lot of
That
sleazy
is
bullshit.
That is really bad that was an idea they had. The fact that they were like, we're giving it to you for free, okay, fair enough, whatever. But my point is like, they're like, yes, we have given the Custodes players their points for free. None of the rest of you get that, though. You all have to pay. I'm like, if you're willing and able to do this for free for one faction, why aren't you doing it for all of them? Not only that, earlier in 9th edition, you gave free points changes as a PDF for everyone. Why did you stop doing that? Like, why? I have so many why questions about this release. It is just so stupid. And like, if you buy this book, I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? Like, you're supporting this really bad and really abusive system that we need to stop. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, 9th edition is amazing and it has the foundation to be the best edition of Warhammer without doubt and without question. It's like the core mechanic is so good. It's so tight and I love it, and I want to really, really love this game. But it's like GW are trying to make it difficult. And like, I will talk about the good part of this book after my rant, because I think it is important to address the good. The mission changes and the overall core rules changes are so good in this book. They're fantastic. The new missions are excellent. I will just say that now. Read through all of them. There was like one where I was like, that mission is a bit silly, but whatever. The rest of them are amazing. So like, really cool to see that. Whoever designed and wrote the missions, like, massive props. They did a fantastic job of making fun, narrative, balanced, competitive missions. So good. Really, really good. The changes to like chapter soup faction in like restrictions, that's really good. Really, really good as a overall game thing. But like, charging us so much money for such a non-change is just wrong. Like, it needs to be digital for so many reasons. For like quality of life for your players as number one, like consideration of them and their value for money that they're investing into your hobby. I think it was like the guys in TTT put it really well, where it's like, instead of having to pay for this book, you should be able to see points changes in a unit and say, wow, that's really cool. I want that unit now. And take the money you would have spent on the book and buy that unit. That's what you should be doing with this. This should be a way of getting you excited about trying new things and revisiting old things. It should not be a way of extorting the players for more money in an already incredibly expensive hobby that they pay for. Aside from that, there's a lot of other reasons why this should be like different. You're wasting so much paper printing this, and we're living in a world where you should be trying to be more sustainable, and this is not a good sustainable practice. This book will be invalidated in 6 months' time, and then it is just a waste of paper and printing, and that is ridiculous. That is so unsustainable as like an ecological and global thing. That just needs to stop. So that's a really, and like, okay, realistically, we know this book is going to bomb. Very few people are going to buy this. Like, I would say that right now. So how much of that is just going to be wasted in warehouses and on shelves? How much of this have they printed that is just not going to be bought? Because I don't know a single competitive player that is actually going to buy this book. So that's a massive waste of paper and resource and money. Apart from that, we still have the dated nature of all these points updates, that it's like they're already out of date. They're already not in touch with the current meta. And there is such a simple solution to all this, and that is digitalizing the entire rule set. So you can do live updates, you don't waste a load of paper, you can do a sub-service, make the app actually good, make it usable, do all your rules and PDFs through the app, make it a proper subscription model where I can go onto the app and I can say the Chaos Marines Codex is out, I can buy it on the app for whatever, €10 or €20. And then if an FAQ comes out, my app is already updated. And I'm not going in there with sticky notes into my book being like, okay, I better make sure I don't sellotape too much because I don't want to pull off the nice artwork,
Yeah.
but I'm writing over things. I'm like, just make it on the app so it's on my phone at all times, and I don't have to lug like 5 kg of books, which is making it harder for me to travel abroad because there's not that much that I can put in the overhead carry bag. I was like, there's like, oh, I don't know how like they're not digital yet, and I hope with every fiber of my being that this is the last physical chapter approved book we ever see.
I can guarantee you almost to a certainty that it's not, because they've just announced their 6th monthly plan, their seasons or whatever it is. I am equally disappointed. More so, okay, so the treatment of the player base of us is bad. It is. But we at least have the choice to not buy it, which I think will start to make an impact. Because, I've been had no secret about how I want the channel's attitude to be. Like, to be honest, to call out GW when it's wrong, and to support GW or whoever else when it's doing okay. And part of that has always been because I always, one of the things was it'd be great to get early access, like the preview for the Chaos book and stuff. I don't care about that anymore. I just don't care about getting the CSM codex a week early. Like, it's nice to have that, but just every time they release these books, where even the regular codexes, I just think more, this is pointless. This is pointless. Like, I would buy codexes for armies I don't play if it was half the price and just the lore and the art. Like, I wouldn't buy everyone, but I'd definitely buy Demons. I'd buy Astra Militarum. There's ones that I just like in the lore that I would buy for that reason, but because it's bloated because of temporary rules, which are obsolete within months in some cases, I've got no interest in doing it. But for me, is the point you touched on with the sustainability, the environmental impact this thing has, because you're getting 2 books, and I checked, it's $40 in the US, so I would actually pay slightly more than you, which is
nice. Nice.
Great. Late stage capitalism, everyone. But for me, it's 2 books. The mission book, if it was half price, I would consider buying just for the mission book, right? I would prefer it to be digital, but ultimately it should be both, because some people may not have access to, a good tablet or a good phone, and should still have access. But it should be almost like they print, I don't know what their sales are, a few thousand copies, but it's also available digital. So the people who really want a paper copy, fine. But the points shouldn't exist on paper. It should not exist. That points book, the Munitorum field manual shouldn't exist. For every, let's say they do sell 10,000 copies of this, right? That's 10,000 books. If they had sold it for half the price, or 2/3 of the price, because they're still scalpers, right, basically, and not printed the points, given the points out for free, and you just buy the mission book, which is what you need to play the game if you want to play, technically, the impact would be 50% better. Or not as bad on the environment, with the waste of paper, the waste of storage, or the logistics of, they would halve the weight that's going in the shipping containers, so that's one less ship traveling across the oceans, and all. Just every time a book is printed that is obsolete and temporary like these, is planned obsolescence. We know that's what it is, because it's something. That's why we're having seasons. It's just a way to make us feel like it's, competitive and gamey. It's not. It's just a way to sell us more shit more often. And we don't need the points like that. And I won't be buying this, which is a shame. But I won't be. And we'll discuss this privately, because, we're both, this is our channel and everything. But, I mean, I'll be straight up. My opinion is this is fucking bullshit. And I don't agree with it on an ethical level, because it's so transparent. It's just a money grab. If it had been well thought out, if it had been available digitally and on paper, if it had been, we're doing seasons, You'll pay once a year, but you know it's a subscription. We'll mail you or email you all the things that we're going to release. There's ways to do it that makes them a shit ton of money, keeps us happy, and keeps the game competitive. They're doing the one that makes them the most money, and that's it. And I don't like that. And whatever. Now, okay. The missions, I've barely had a scan through them, like a quick scan of what has been kind of released and talked about, notes on them. I know you've had more opportunity. So with that kind of both of us having a little rant there about the absolute bullshit business practice, which is a problem, and it makes it very difficult for me to want to support this, but you know, we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the missions now. Let's try and end this, because I know you need to go and drown your sorrows. So give us your hot take on the missions, and then we'll look at
I'm down a bottle of whiskey
and...
tonight after this. Yeah, so like actually, to be honest, the missions are really well designed. We're not going to run through everything.
We'll do that next week, I think.
I think we'll probably do another mission or another video on like full mission breakdown, because like it's really cool. Like the concept of, I feel like the aliens guy, the concept of a season is fantastic. I think it's really cool. I think like doing like seasonal competitive play for Warhammer is a really, really good idea. And like you said, you're totally right. They could have implemented it in a really good way. And they were like, do you know what? We've got the sock with the sack of coal in it, and we're going in for round 2. It's like your little brother has just walked down to see the noise of Santa beating you to death with the sock, and then he's going to get it now. It's just like seasons could be really good, and then they're just not. And I'm like, oh, God, you just swing and a miss, G-Dub.
Yep.
But the idea of like theming a season around like narrative, sort of competitive with the Knockmon thing, I'm like, that's sick. I'm like, I'm really into
so
that.
Much potential.
Yeah, and like the season as a way of driving lore and driving a story-driven element of the game as you're playing it, be it competitive or narrative or whatever, so cool. I'm like, like you're so close to getting it right. I think that's what annoys me the most. It's like every time they do this, I'm like, oh, you just missed it, guys, and because you just missed it, it hurts so much more.
They get an idea, like a logistics or a business practice idea, and they look at it, and it's like, okay, we could go this way, which does everything right and makes us, 500% profit, or we could go this way and make 1,000% profit, but fuck everybody. And every time they take the idea which has potential and go the wrong way. And it's like, I would buy this book if you'd done it the right way. You would buy this book if it had been done the right way, whether it's digital or what have you, right? So, I don't know, man. I think
right now they are treading a very fine line with their fan base, and if they don't rectify it, I think the next year could be very bad for them.
Yes.
I think they had a pretty rough year last year with some controversy, some of which was fair, some of which I believe was entirely unfounded and stupid.
Yeah.
Regardless, they had a rough year, and I think they need to do a lot to win back the favor of the community.
Yeah.
This is not how you do it at all.
No.
They need to digitalize. They're living in the Stone Age. They need to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So the missions, going back to it, are really well designed.
Right.
They're very well thought out. The idea of how the primary works now with like a different scoring mechanism is really cool. There's like a little mission-specific kind of objective in each one. One of them is really cool because you have to plant a bomb, so it's like Counter-Strike, and the enemy can defuse the bomb. I'm like, that's really sick. I love that kind of stuff, and seeing it in a competitive environment where it's actually viable, I'm like, let's have more of that. There's a really stupid mission in there where you can't use forward deployments like Apoplectic Frenzy, so we don't need to worry about that mission because much like the Scouring, it will just never be played. Mm-hmm. The Scouring is actually not bad now because they changed the deployment. That does exist. And then there's a couple, I think there's 2 brand new missions that aren't like redos of old ones, which I looked at both and I was like, these both look sick. They look really, really fun to play. So the missions overall very well designed. And then you had a couple of secondary tweaks, which we've already talked about. And Chaos Space Marine secondary, which upon reflection is actually probably quite a decent secondary, I would say. And then you had the core changes. So the most important one was the sub-faction souping, which is like
No
definitely
more,
a good change
no
overall.
more Iron Warriors and World Eaters in the same army. I mean,
Yeah,
which doesn't affect most of us. I don't
yeah.
think it affects many CSM players. Certainly not competitively.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
just think like as a tournament competitive mechanic, that's probably a good thing. If you want to play those kind of games, you are still free to do it outside of everything other than tournament play. So
yeah,
like, fair enough. That's chill. And I'd rather see us not be able to soup with other legions if it meant that I don't have to see 5 grandmasters anymore, and if I don't have to see 2 sister super optimized things coming up against me, that kind of
yeah,
thing. So overall, they're really well thought out and very well implemented changes where it's not too heavy-handed and it forces new types of innovation, which is the thing I'd like to see for the game. Especially things like thinking about how you're going to approach these new missions and maybe like teching towards new types of secondaries and things like that. So that's really, really cool. I'm pretty pleased about that, and I
yeah,
think most people agree that the new mission types seem quite fun and quite interesting. And I'll be interested to see how the competitive scene develops with those over the next while. It is just a massive shame to think that the competitive scene will not be including Chaos Space Marines in
yeah,
any way, shape, or form. So
yeah.
yeah, to be honest, like the first half of this book, the mission half is really good. Does that mean you should buy it? No, absolutely not. That should just be a free PDF that's made available to everyone as well. Because why should you have to pay for the missions for this game?
I
Like,
think, I think if they did it like they need to turn these Warzone things like how they do with like Caradon and stuff like that. If they made it, it's half lore and half missions, right? And maybe and like the core rules changes like that, then you can sell it because I like my big rule book. I like my codexes because even when the points are no longer relevant or the rules are no longer relevant, it's still got cool stuff in there, right? I wish they were separated, but if they're going to be selling us the book anyway or sell us the missions every 6 months, give us something that makes it worth it or make it free. But we know if they can sell us something, they will sell us something. So at least make it so it's got some longevity. Something like, I don't know, but like because this is an evolving lore now, like the seasons are, like we're in the Nachman Gauntlet and then we'll be somewhere else in 6 months' time and, you know, eventually hopefully we'll get to Armageddon or something. But at least have like good lore in there, like good narrative stuff. Does it have narrative missions in there? So I
no,
know they
it's
do in
it's
the
it's just
Warzone
competitive. Yeah,
books. Yeah,
yeah. I think
because it is
Vigilus alone is going to
GT,
have
I
your narrative.
suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, but they're restyling it. It started off as GT for competitive play, but now they're doing the seasons thing and they're having a narrative behind the seasons. Just incorporate it. You know, just put a little bit in there. But whatever. I mean, we can't solve the world's problems, so I don't know.
I'm
I don't
trying,
mind.
Jamie. I'm trying to
Yeah,
solve them.
I don't mind paying for missions as long as it's fairly priced. I do mind paying $40 for just the missions because the points I'm going to get for free on Battlescribe or Wikipedia. Like that's just
Yeah.
how it is. And I mean, I know no one from GW gives a shit about us, but if they happen to, you know, sort your shit out, mate. I mean, sort it the fuck out.
Yeah.
I will
Like my,
happily
my
pay
problem
it,
is like the
but
argument that has like always been there for against digitalizing is that everyone will copy it. And I'm like, as if they don't fucking just use Wikipedia
yeah,
anyway. Or like
all
these
the
other sites.
time.
It's like, let's just like stop bullshitting around it. Like, can we just stop with that like stupid idea
Yeah,
and like that ideology? Because it's like we all can fire the rules literally in seconds if we want
yeah.
to. Digitalizing that is not going to change a fucking
I
thing. It's just
bought
like it's
Faith and
already there.
Fury. I bought the Chaos Space Marine Codex, even though I had the real version. I bought the digital versions because I felt I want to support this because they were digital and I wanted them. And it was easier for me because I could have them on my phone and I could have them on my tablet, so I could go to a tournament and I haven't got to dig through the thing. I can just fucking, you know, search for a keyword and get what I need. And oh no, we got to stop this because of piracy. Yeah, well, I can guarantee you, have I bought a book since then, since Faith and Fury? Other than the 9th edition book? No, I haven't. Other than the 9th edition core rule book, I haven't bought a book, a GW book, because there's no, or last year's chapter approved, I guess. But I'm not buying expansions or the campaign books or anything. I don't need to because they're overpriced and bullshit, and the points are available on Battlescribe or what have you, and they're also available on Wikipedia, which I play on TTS. I've got Wikipedia open on my second screen. It's just there, so if I need to quickly search something, it's right there. Much quicker, much more efficient. If they made an app for it, that'd solve that problem. Like a working app, I mean. Not a link to a Google Doc, but I don't
It's
know,
like,
man.
like Games Workshop make the best wargaming miniatures in the world. No question about it.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say about your third-party bit site. They're not as good.
No.
I've dealt with them. I have had to paint them for people. They're dog shit. They're so bad to paint, and they don't look that cool. They make the best models in the field by like such a large margin that it's not even close.
Yeah.
The next competitor isn't even anywhere close to them. Look at the new Eldar range coming out. It is sexy. It is so good. I can't wait to play Eldar and leave my world leaders in the bin. I don't care. I don't care because I just want to have fun when I play a game. I'm sick of being whipped. And like, their models are exceptional. Their art team are amazing. Their concept artists are so good at what they do. And the direction of the 2D artwork in the new codexes is absolutely incredible. And apart from Fat Abaddon on the front of the new book, their art for 9th edition has been outstanding.
He looks hench.
I think he looks silly.
Boy's been working out. I mean, he's like... Yeah.
Oh, the belly plate is looking like it's going to explode, but whatever. So like, that's really good. Like, they're so good at that, and they're almost good at designing the game. Like, they're almost there. And it's like they... It's like sometimes they have these moments of brilliance, like when they released the points as a PDF at the start of 9th, and I was like, oh, we're finally doing it. We're finally starting to digitalize. And I remember the hype around that. And the balance data slate is so good. Like, that came out and I was like, it's happening. Mm-hmm. We're finally getting there. And doing the community surveys and stuff like that, it's like you feel like you're being listened, regardless of whether or not they actually listen to you. Yeah. At least you feel like you are. And then the balance data slate comes out and they're like, we're going to do one of these every 3 months. And to be fair, they're doing one in February. Yeah. I'm like, that's what we need. This is exactly right. You guys are doing it. Now, I'm going to just say that the Long War talked about this a couple of episodes ago, that this might be a product of an older sort of like release schedule design thing where it's like that chapter approved was planned and printed in summer of last year. And we might still be suffering their lag because they have a really big lag. We know that, especially now with COVID still being a thing and with shipping just being permanently fucked forever. Like, that lag exists. So we might still be getting a holdover from that. I don't know. This is the hopeful part of me. I hope that the balanced data slates and that kind of thing is what they're planning for the future. And I hope the second half of this season in Nockmund or whatever is going to be like a PDF thing where they're like, okay, we realize that this is not working. Like, someone has to be looking at the numbers for the books, because how many people do you know, Jamie, that actually bought one of the Army of Renown books? I don't know anyone who purchased one. I think Tantron did because he is crazy.
I know a few players of the armies that got the stuff, and I can't think of anyone who got one.
I've not been to a tournament where I've seen one of those books in a physical form.
Yeah, every time I go to a gaming store, they're still all on the shelves. Like, was it 3 of them now? The Wars are
3 or 4 or something. I don't know.
I don't even know which one's which, and I don't care because.
Yeah, exactly. And like, someone has to be looking at those numbers and being like, this isn't working. And like, I think even last year's chapter approved. I didn't buy it. A lot of other people didn't buy it because why would you? I know you did. And I was like, damn you shill. But like, I'm just like, it's just like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I put a lot of money into this hobby and I really love it. And I'm not doing that. You know, it's like, €32, that's like some hours of work. I'm like, I'm not working, like spending time working so I can afford something I don't really care about, and it's going to be invalidated really soon. And like, so I'm hoping that this is like a holdover of like an older design philosophy that they know is no longer working and is going to take a little while to update. And on the Long War, they were saying maybe it's going to be 6 months to a year where you have this lag, before everything gets ironed out. Maybe that's true. I really, really hope it is. Like, I hope with all my heart that that is going to be the situation. I don't know if it's true. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Like, it's like their upper management is so detached from the rest of the company and they just don't get it. Like, but they're going to get it now because their profits were not that good this year. Like, their
Yeah.
financial report was pretty shaky. And I'm like, you guys have to be seeing that, like, all the goodwill you had from 8th and the start of 9th is starting to rub away. And
Yeah.
they're going to have to, like, get their act together because, like, this game is getting bigger than I believe they can handle. Like, a lot of their kind of, like, outreach has done really well and become really popular. And the game is exploding. And you've got these new people coming in having to realize that they're going to have their rules invalidated every 6 months, and then every year they're going to have to buy a new codex, and like then there's
Well,
Army of Renown books.
oh,
And like if I was starting the hobby, I would just be like, I'm not doing this. This is dumb. I'll play a hobby where I get free rules updates.
Well, everyone who does come into the hobby, right now, you got to think of this, right? Most or a lot of new hobbyists through COVID editions, right? Basically, 9th edition, the entire time of COVID have probably come in. A lot of them through TTS, or through someone who plays TTS, or because they watched Astartes on YouTube. They've come in through the online presence, right? Because everyone for a long period of time has been stuck at home. Internet usage has just gone way up. It was already incredibly high, but obviously because it should have done, because we should have been staying at home for a long time. So if your introduction to the game is through something online, you evidently have some concept of, how things should function. I'll guarantee you once you joined a Facebook group or once you joined a Discord or once you, followed your favourite Instagram painter or whatever, you heard about Warharpedia and Battlestar.
Yeah,
That
probably.
is where you were directed to, and you discovered that you do not need to spend a penny on anything. And, maybe you heard about STL files for 3D prints. Like, that's a different thing because I do love the GW models, and I will always have official GW stuff because that's what I like for my aesthetic. I'm not going to judge anyone who 3D prints their armies though. I just, that's up to you. But you're coming in through, okay, I can get 90% of this shit for cheaper or free. So all this new fan base that they did attract by doing some good, clever things, they got in, not making a whole bunch of money off them because they did a bunch of stupid, unethical things and poor PR and poor business decisions. So that, they're not going to get the profit from there because there was so little profit to get anyway. They needed to really shift how they were seen. So all these new people are, okay, so I can get Warharpedia, but that book is actually a really good deal and it's got cool stuff in it. So maybe I'll buy the book as well. And, well, it's cheaper than it was last year, so I can buy a box of Marines as well. And I don't know, man. I know I'm not a big CEO type sitting on a board of directors somewhere, but some shit just makes fucking sense. If I want to make money, like, I know how to make money off of things. Like, make it a good deal for your customer and you still make a profit. And even though your profit may be less, if it's a good deal, if I sell you something good, you tell your roommate, hey man, Jamie's selling this, this stuff pretty good. He buys it. I get 2 profits. Like, this shit ain't rocket science. Like, I don't understand why businesses do this stuff.
It's like people don't understand that like goodwill goes a long fucking way.
Yes.
Yep. Where it's like, I don't care if you didn't even make the perfect change. But if you did it with good intent, I'm like, I respect that.
Yeah.
Like the balanced data slate, that was good intention.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what we want to see. It was like a couple of weeks after the big community survey where everyone asked for that exact same thing. And they were like, we're delivering. And I'm like, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to do. That's really good. And I was like, props to GW. This is hot shit. Mm-hmm. And then there's this fucking bullshit. Yeah. I'm just like, they need to be so careful because the game is getting huge and they want the game to be taken seriously. They want the competitive side of it to be taken seriously because let's be real, the competitive side of the game, while it is not the majority of players, is probably the majority of their sales.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that right now. I think it's a big statement, but I think it's correct. Like,
it's
no one buys models.
Yeah.
No one buys models as fast as competitive players, especially not cutting edge. And like, I would say since the start of World Leaders, the vast majority of the World Leaders I have bought have been with the intention of using them in competitive lists.
100%, yeah.
So they need to wake up. They need to get their act together, and they need to think, okay, things are kind of on fire right now. And I've watched a lot of content creators and all that stuff that today reviewing the CA book, and they all say the same thing. And I'm going to say, I think our stance on it is the same as all of them. Don't buy this book. Just don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. They do not deserve to make money from such a poor business model, regardless of the quality of publication. Even if the content was excellent in this book, it would not be worth buying, no matter what, because you should not have to pay for points that were included in the codex that you already bought. You should not have to pay for alterations to them. You should not have to pay for changes to the missions from the core rulebook that you already bought. These all should be free. Yeah. That's just it, you know? I'm pissed. I'm pretty pissed.
Yep, I
feel better though. I feel like I got an awful lot out of my system.
Like, it is very disappointing. It's disappointing on multiple levels, which is a shame because, like I said at the start, this was kind of like last night was my Christmas Eve, and I was hoping for, I just wanted us to completely nerd out. I wanted us to start. I had an Excel sheet already built with like the old points. I was like, let's build a list. Let's make the list that's going to win the next super major. Just completely memeing our way through this, regardless of the true meta applications of other people getting points decreased and stuff. And it's not there. There is nothing significant. No one is getting any massive change that is super positive. I'm sure there'll be a list somewhere for some faction that becomes a lot better and great for that person or those players, but this is not a leveling points update. This hasn't balanced anything significantly. This is throwing pennies into a homeless person's cup, and that's an awful analogy. I realise after I said it, but it's that level of disrespect.
Yeah, like the level chaos is on. It's like, I don't mind that the balance wasn't huge for other factions that have their book, because I think for the most part the interbalance between modern and ninth codex is actually quite good at the minute. So I don't think there needs to be a huge amount tweaked, but for the likes of Chaos and Astral Militarm, it's rough. And then the method by which it's all been applied is really the core issue here. Whatever about the actual balance, if this was all a free thing that we got online, I wouldn't be as mad as I am because of the nature of it.
But
I'd be disappointed, but I'd be like, look, at least it means in a couple of months' time, maybe we get another one online or whatever. Yeah, look, it's tough. It's tough. I really hope that they see the hit back from this and kind of reevaluate and go forward with more things like the balanced data slate in the future, because that's a really good way of updating. We can only hope. Like, they're gonna have to. The thing is, they don't really have a choice. They're gonna have to get better, otherwise the game is gonna die like it did in 7th Ed. And I don't want it to die. I love the game, obviously. I really love it.
Like, it's just like the competitive scene is really blowing up. Like, we've got more super majors this year scheduled than ever before. Like, they literally created them. 2,000 people I think are scheduled for the LVO. If maybe I'm pulling that number out my ass, but everything is getting
2 million people coming to Vegas.
But everything is, and a lot of that has been community driven. Like, FLG have had a huge part in this, even though they've stepped back from the kind of their semi-official role that they had previously. They've become just much more independent. They, love or hate Frontline Gaming, which I know some people, like them, some people don't. That's fine. At the end of the day, the reason we have any 40k right now, competitive-wise, is because of them. Like, they basically created the scene, and now GW is coming in, and okay, it's their franchise, it's their IP, they want to reap this. Okay, that's between those two businesses, but at the end of the day, FLG and all the content they provide with all their different podcasts and events they run and stuff, they're pretty much unsung heroes. And I'm going to admit, I'm not a huge fan of some of their attitudes on stuff, but they do an awful lot for the community. And the ITC like scoring system and missions was free content from a relatively small business. Created this whole thing, and anyone could play ITC shit at home for free. Like, as long as you had the physical stuff to play, you could play ITC stuff. Like, you just went on their website and downloaded the mission pack and the score.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could do it. There's no excuse for GW to not be able to do a similar kind of thing. And the game is at that tipping point of, we've been kind of having these explosive moments when, like, the Astartes, you know, blew up, like suddenly there was a huge influx. Yeah. TTS has helped draw people in. They fucked up with Hammer and Bolter because I think they could have, like, doubled their fucking number. But, like, all the little Henry Cavill moments that happen, all these things keep sucking in people, and GW's just plodding along, and, like, they're just like, they're like a grandpa that's just not understanding, like, how to engage and how to properly reward their loyal fan base and the new fan base, the competitive players, the narrative players, everyone. They can fix everything, they're just not doing it. And
I think you hit it correctly, though. Like, we're on a tipping point. Either, like, they have the capacity to go into explosive, almost exponential growth if they do things right. It's so easy. It's so easy to do it right as well. Just do the things that we said, and, like, as if their profits won't soar from it, because everyone's going to start buying new models and shit, and people are going to hear about the competitive nature of the game. You get way more people getting into comp from narrative and normal play as well, because, like, and then on the other side of it, if it tips the other way, the game's just going to fucking die like it did in 7.
Yeah, that's what.
And it'll take them being like another 8th edition reformation to save it.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is a warning bell for them that they really messed up, considering, like, basically every content creator has been like, this is trash, what are you doing? Stop doing this. Like, it's not working, you know?
Yeah.
No one wants this. I don't know why they think we want this. Like, we don't want this.
I honestly don't know. I just think they're behind the times, and I just in case anyone watching is, like, you know, new to the channel or anything, we are.
We're not normally this angry.
Yeah, no. Honestly, I don't think. Certainly, we've never had a live stream where we've complained about stuff, like. Not to this.
But it's degree. like we always say, like, we always try and be positive, and we always try and find, like, the good in things. And there is good here. Like, the design of the missions is fantastic, and the changes to secondaries, that's all really, really good.
But it's
really
a gold
tight,
ring covered
fantastic
in shit,
work,
man. It's
and, like, I deal with
and
enough shit in real life,
bollocks.
you know. It's like, no, like, I just, oh man, like. I'm sorry for anyone watching who's like, I thought it was going to be, like, hype, or, like, usually it's, like, used to our normal mood and stuff, because like, normally we are, like, that positive, like, good vibes or whatever, and it's like, at some point you do have to put your foot down and be like, we need things to be better for the state of the game. And this isn't even just a give Chaos Space Marines one more wound thing, because, like, that is a tired dead meme, which is really funny but also enough. This is, like, a health of everyone. Like, this isn't just being like, Chaos are old, because we are, but, like,
we know it.
This is like, we know. I don't care. Just do things better. Just like, make this game what it should be. And it's literally, like I said, it's like they're always so close, and then they just, like, instead of hitting the ball, it's like they let go of the baseball bat and it, like, kills the pitcher or something. You know, it's like, come on, guys, like, please. I want to love this game. I really want to.
Look, Dara, look, mate. I think you need to go and have a couple drinks. I think you need to go and knock a couple back. Just forget.
I think we covered it, like, pretty well. I mean, I don't think we were, like, overly harsh, to be honest. I think I was as honest as I could be, and I think you were very honest. I think we brought up a lot of good points, and I think it's something that needs to be kind of said, to be honest.
I just think I will echo your thoughts as kind of like a closing statement here to anyone. You're obviously free to spend your money how you wish. I would just certainly think very strongly about what you purchase from GW. Obviously, you're purchasing your models, your paints, things like that. You know, that's fine. Something like Chapter Approved does feel... I believe there are ethical problems with it, and there are bullshit problems with it. And I think the best way for GW to realise this and fix things quicker and be more transparent quicker is for us to tell them with our wallets. And obviously those of us with platforms can talk about it. You are, of course, free to do what you want. If you want to give GW all your money and make weekly donations to them, you're free to do that. I just think it would be a bad choice.
Instead, why not make weekly donations to us on the Red Path?
Yeah, right.
You'll find a link to our Patreon down below.
Shit, I don't know if I did.
What a good plug. That's like the best plug I've ever done.
But yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. I hope everyone can find their own glimmer of goodness in this fucking mess. I hope you.
I feel better. I feel way better. I
hope
had
your
to
warp
deal with this all day.
Tear some people apart. I hope your obliterators roll 3s on the D3s for all their profiles. You know, I hope you do run Chaos Space Marines because you hate painting cultists, and you know those extra few points, that extra melter gun you buy, it kills it. You know, takes the final few wounds off a Redemptor Dreadnought. I hope these things happen for you.
Hell yeah.
But yeah,
hell yeah.
I think that does it. Anything you want to close us out with, mate?
Look, it's a little bit of a rough moment. At the end of the day, we're not like dying. I hope. You know, like there's like worse things that can be happening in the world, and it's important to remember to kind of temper your anger when things like this happen, and to channel it into constructive ways to help the situation move forward. So I will echo what TTT said on their videos today. Don't take this as an excuse to start messaging hate on any platforms to anyone, because the people who are probably running those platforms are not in charge of anything important. It's probably someone who's around the same age as all of us and doesn't deserve to be abused, so don't do that. If you want to make your voices known, there's plenty of official ways you can do that if you just search for them, or you can make it known on social media platforms where obviously they're watching and keeping an eye out. Just don't turn this into an unnecessary like hate train when it doesn't need to be. Like just this can be I think we talked about it in a way today where, you know, we're not kind of going off so hard that it's like, this is the worst thing ever, no one should buy anything from the hobby ever again, # boycott GW. We're just saying this is a bad model. The only way they're going to work out it's a bad model is by seeing this hit back, and by seeing that people aren't buying the books and realizing they need to evolve as a business. Yeah. So I think that's the main thing. Just be sensible with how you want to phrase your criticism, and things will hopefully get better, I think. This, like I said, this could be a holdover from an older business design that is no longer working. And hopefully we see some good changes going forward. It's a little bit tough if you're a competitive Chaos player, especially. It's a little bit tough if you're a competitive Warhammer player in general right now, but especially if you're playing Chaos, because effectively we can't compete, I think, until we get a book. Yeah. Which is sucky, but here we are. Yeah, look, it's a little bit rough. I wish I was doing a really hype live stream like we thought we might be doing. Yeah. And unfortunately we're not. And look, these things happen. We'll get over it. There'll be some good stuff in the future, I'm sure. I'm pretty hype about other things that'll be coming out, such as my incredibly powerful Eldar army that is going to tear it up. Hell yeah. I don't even play World Leaders, and I never did. Yeah, look, yeah, it's a little bit rough, guys. It's not the end of the world. The sky is not falling yet.
It's just a game. It's just a game.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's just a game, but we all want it to be a really good game. So let's hope it can evolve and grow to be that. And I'm only this passionate about it because I love it so much, and I know it can be amazing, and I know it should be amazing. Yep. And I hope it will be. And I think I am optimistic that it will be. So
I think
yeah,
we've got to give them a little bit more time. We've got to see how they go. But yeah, the onus is on GW to make this work. We can only do what we can do to tell them that. So I think on that note, I think we wrap it up. I hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I hope
to...
it wasn't too ranty. I know it was a big rant, but I hope it was a rant that everyone can agree with. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks
and
for
hanging
being
out
here. Blood for the blood god. What's up, Aaron, man? So yeah, I hope everyone has a good one. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.